Hello, everyone.
Hello, Gloria.
Hi, greetings.
We are good. My camera is misbehaving.
Hi, Moses. Good to hear you.
Thank you.
I think some other people are having challenges in joining. I don't know what's happening. Laudax, can you mute your mic?
Hello, good evening.
Okay, 1 minute.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Alcado.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hello, Gloria, unanisikia?
Yes, nakusikia.
What about me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Naomba niambie kama mnanisikia ili
Tunakusikia.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Mfuka.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir. We can hear you. I think Dr. Alcado cannot hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think a few people are having issues with joining, but they are joining now. I was just helping Ishan. All right. So I think we can start. Greetings, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning for those from the United States. Most of us, it's either afternoon or evening. So my name is Gloria Anderson. I'm having two hearts today. So I'm representing Tanzania Enlightenment Development Innovation as a director, but I'm also presenting the Africa Evidence Network as a program officer on community of practice. All right, so today we are going to have a webinar titled Enhancing Tanzania's Digital Education Strategy Through Global Insights, which is part of our celebration of the Africa Evidence Week 2024. Basically, the Africa Evidence Week is being organized by the Africa Evidence Network, and it's taking place from 19th to 23rd August this week, basically. And the Africa Evidence Week is a virtual week-long celebration of African evidence-informed decision-making. It is a true reflection of how only together can evidence-informed decision-making become a reality. So we are basically, the main objective of the Africa Evidence Week 2024 is to showcase and promote the state of evidence-informed decision-making on the continent, specifically highlighting the contribution of young and emerging leaders in the African EIDM. So basically the Africa Evidence Network, it's a network of evidence users, mediators, producers, everyone who is fostering and promoting evidence-informed decision-making. And therefore, given the fact that the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in Tanzania is fostering the use of evidence in its decision-making, especially in the areas of policy-making as well as strategies, in June 24th to 25th this year, the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in Tanzania presented a draft on a national digital education strategy. And the presentation basically included representatives from different ministries, higher learning institutions, international organizations like UNICEF, technical and vocational colleges, teachers, colleges, students, NGOs, and many other stakeholders locally who provided their views regarding the draft that was presented by the ministry. As part of the African Evidence Week, we decided to come up with this webinar mainly to showcase the work that the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in Tanzania is doing, but also to enhance the strategy by getting global insights from various stakeholders. And therefore, today, we are going to hear from different stakeholders. I'll introduce them later, but we have Dr. Alcado Barakabitse. He is from the ministry committee that was responsible on developing the national digital education strategy. We're going to hear also from Dr. Edefons Mfuka, who was also from the ministry committee. We will also hear from Mr. Moses Nkigari, who is going to speak on the best practices in digital education from Africa. He is coming from the Open University of Botswana. We will also hear from Mr. Ishan Baba, who is going to share on global perspectives in digital education. Mr. Ishan Baba is a machine learning engineer, but we will also hear from Mr. Promise Nduku, who is an evidence synthesis co-director of PACE. He's going to speak on the role of evidence in shaping digital education policies. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the special guest if he has already joined the meeting. I think he hasn't. The special guest was the director of the Information and Communication Technology, the department that is concerning with ICT in the Ministry of Education. I think Professor Mnyone will join later. So right now, I would like to welcome Dr. Alcado Barakabitse. I'm very sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. To provide his keynote speech. The floor is yours, Dr. Alcado.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Gloria, for the welcome remarks. Good evening, everyone. Please, Gloria, can you allow me to share the slides, please?
That will also apply to me later.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Let me do that. Very sorry I did not include yours. Yeah. Let me see. Now you should be able to present.
Yeah. Yeah, hello, good evening once again. I hope you can see my slides.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, thank you. So as Gloria has introduced,
Can you slideshow?
Yes, it is in slideshow mode. Yeah, it is in a slideshow. Can you see the slideshow or not?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Are they in slideshow mode or not?
No, they are not in slideshow mode.
Yeah, I think the problem with Microsoft Teams, if you put on slideshow, then I think it cannot show on slide mode. So it's just take the normal presentation mode. So this is the draft of the National Digital Education Strategy 2024, 25, 2029, 2030. And the development of the National Digital Education Strategy started early this year in March. So this is the task force team, the National Task Force team, which have developed this strategy. So we have a very, very good team from different universities, from the industry, and from the Ministry of Education, Science, and Technology. So this is the picture we took when we were working on the development of this document. And I will take you through the following outline. So from the situation analysis to the next steps. So my main task will be to present to you the National Digital Education Strategy, taking you through on what the country has decided to take in the transformation of digital education for the next 5 years. So during the development of this document, we had the situation analysis. We conducted a very, very comprehensive situation analysis, focusing mainly on three aspects. One is the policy context, where we have to review different documents, including the national, regional, and international documents. In terms of national documents, we had to go through the ICT in Education Strategy for Tanzania Schools for Development and the Teacher Colleges. This is for 2022, 2023, 2026, 2027. So we also had to go through the Tanzania Development Vision 2025, 5-year development plan 2025, 2026, the National ICT Policy 2024, this is the current one. And we have also to go through different documents. For example, the African Union Agenda 2026-63, that's the Africa we want. The Sustainable Development Goals 2030, the UNESCO Guidelines for ICT in Education Policies and the Master Plans 2022. So these are the policy context documents, which of course helped the team to formulate and draw a lot of information in the current document. So we conducted also the situation analysis regarding ICT facilities and infrastructure, looking on how our country has promoted and developed the ICT infrastructure in the country, which of course help in one way or another the education sector. So we have as the country the Tanzania National ICT Broadband Backbone Cable, which of course goes through different regions, as you can see in the picture at the right hand side. So we also saw that the government has done a lot of initiatives, including connecting all teacher colleges to this national ICT broadband backbone cable. And we can see that there are a lot of this mobile networks penetration with a lot of companies, for example, TTCL, Vodacom, Airtel, Tigo, Zantel, Haltel, indicating a total of subscription with more than 60 million users by December 2023. So this just an indication of how ICT has been penetrating in the country, which of course in one way or another will help to facilitate the integration of ICT in education. So we also see that the National Internet Data Center is available now, which can benefit all ministries, including the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. For example, on storing students and teachers or educators data in a lot of information regarding the education sector. So we also have to look at different initiatives which focus on integrating ICT in the education sector. So focusing, for example, in basic education, the government has been trying to do a lot in this area with boosting CQEP and TESIP initiatives or projects. We can see that the government has supplied to all teachers and the tutors with tablets, which help them to facilitate the teaching and learning process. There are e-library available in almost every levels of education and the training in the country. So talking, for example, with e-library, in case of universities, the e-library area is very, very working well. So when it comes to technical and vocational education and training, we see that the TVET colleges have been equipped with the computer laboratories. When it comes to higher education, the government now has a very, very big project called HIT, which is now making a lot of transformation in terms of state-of-the-art tools and equipment regarding the ICT. So the rationale and justification of having the National Digital Education Strategy, we came to see that we need to have coordinated, harmonized, sustainable and learning outcome, which of course are oriented initiatives by the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology and various stakeholders within and outside the country. So we saw that there is of course the necessity to have the National Digital Education Strategy, which will cover all levels of education and the training. Of course, there were the National Digital Education Strategy, which did not cover all levels of education. So the existing National Digital Education Strategy before this was only covering basic education, folk development colleges, and TVET. And there were no higher education in the other education sector. So that's why there's a need to have the National Digital Education Strategy, which will cover all levels of education and training. And the strategy, which of course will be aligned to the new National ICT Policy document and even a recent national document, for example, the Education and Training Policy of 2014, version 2023, and National Digital Education Strategy, which is aligned the Tanzania Digital Economy Strategy Framework 2023 up to 2033. And of course, a strategy which will align well with the Africa Union Digital Education Strategy 2023 up to 2028. So this is why we are having and presenting this document to you for making the digital education transformation across the country in all levels of education and training. The vision and mission, so is to improve, the vision is to improve learning outcomes through ICT, and the mission is to enhance access to quality teaching, learning, and administration in education institutions using ICT. So we have these strategy objectives. One is to enhance teaching and learning by ICT integration in all levels of education and training. Develop educators, education leaders, and a competent ICT professional base with the skills that support ICT integration, education, and training. So we have 8 strategy objectives. So because of time, I won't be able to read all, but these are the strategic objectives of the National Digital Education Strategy, which of course now, if you see, we have tried to focus in all education and training chain delivery from teaching, learning aspects. So we have the guiding principles. So one is equity and inclusion. We have quality and relevance, transparency and accountability, collaboration, diversity, professionalism, research and innovation, and sustainability. So we have 8 guiding principles which will provide a proper guidance during the implementation of this strategy. The scope of the strategy is covering all levels of education, including basic education, TVET, and the higher education. So from this scoping of the National Digital Education Strategy, so we came to formulate now the strategy framework of the National Digital Education Strategy. As you can see, the team, after a comprehensive review of different national, regional, and international documents, so we came to see that there are very, very important areas where as a country need to make a focus. So we have to develop core areas or core pillars and supporting areas or core supporting pillars of the National Digital Education Strategy. So these pillars actually are drawn from the documents that we reviewed and are drawn based on the importance on important areas where as the national, that's we see would be very, very important the country to focus on. So the National Digital Education Strategy has 7 pillars. One is the infrastructure and access. The second core pillar is ICT integration in the curriculum. The third core pillar is digital content development. We have digital assessment, human resource and the capacity building. We have resource innovation and entrepreneurship. We have emerging technologies. So these core pillars have to actually be implemented with a support of other pillars, which we call them supporting areas or supporting pillars. So we have 60 supporting pillars. That's the technical support and the maintenance. We have partnership and the resource mobilization. We have change management. We have data management and analytics. We have security, safety, and ethics. And then we have governance and management. Along with these core and supporting pillars, these have to be monitored, evaluated, and learned as the implementation goes on year after a year. So we have also sustainability aspects, making sure that the implementation of these core pillars and supporting pillars are sustainable, to make sure that the ICT is successive and at some point 100% integrated in the education and the training across all levels. So I will take you through the core pillars, starting with the core pillar 1, infrastructure and access. So these are important areas that we see are very, very have to be very, very well implemented. So we have the digital connectivity. We have to accessibility of digital devices. We have digital education platforms and the systems. We have the educational digital content storage facilities, affordable internet and digital facilities, reliable source of power, making sure that the education and the training sector across all levels have all these important areas. And these are just some of the important areas that we identified. But there are also other areas which are available in the shared document. So we have the ICT integration, the curriculum. So these are the strategies in these core pillars, focusing on integration of ICT into the curriculum, making sure that all curriculum from basic education, TVET, higher education, and teacher colleges are integrated with ICT modules. We have the use of digital education technologies, promoting the use of digital education technologies. We have the use, promoting the use of digital education technologies, promoting inclusive environment and strengthening inclusive environment that enhance the use of ICT in teaching and learning, as well as promoting interactive and the collaborative digital education technologies. These are just some of the areas that we identified as the important strategies in this ICT integration in the curriculum core pillar. We have core pillar 3, digital content development. Because of time, I won't be able to go through, but these are important areas, important strategies that we identified in core pillar 3. We also have core pillar 4, digital assessment, and these are the strategies, for example, promoting development of digital assessment tools. We have the use of digital, promoting the use of digital tools for assessment across all levels. We have the quality assurance tool for ensuring reliability and fairness during assessment of students' exams. So we have core pillar 5, human resource and the capacity building. So we have identified also important strategies which will be guiding the implementation of this strategy, including availability, for example, of technical ICT personnel, promoting or developing ICT competency standards for educators across the country for all levels, preparing adequate and competent personnel, resource centers to support educators, strengthening the existing resource centers to support educators during the integration of ICT in teaching and learning. So we have core pillar 6, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. These are some of the important strategies that we have identified in the strategy, but there are also other strategies available, as you can see in the document. Then we have the emerging technologies as the core pillar 7. So these are the strategies, making sure that, for example, there's an investment on enabling environment for the adoption of emerging technologies. We have the strategy for capacitating educators and the technical personnel on education technologies. We have to promote promoting research on development, application, and the utilization of emerging technologies. For example, focusing on augmented and virtual reality, artificial intelligence, for example, in teaching and learning, blockchain technologies, for example, gaming, video gaming in education, especially for basic education, primary school students, or even secondary school. So these are very, very important strategies which we have identified in the document in core pillar 7. So the core pillars, of course, cannot be implemented without having the following supporting pillars. So one, change management. As we're integrating ICT and changing and making a total transformation of digital education across the country, the change management aspect, we have to change minds of education managers across all levels. So we have developed the following strategy. For example, change management mechanism, which will facilitate the overall achievement of digital transformation and the integration of ICT in education and training. Promoting effective communication, for example, within and across education institutions and the key stakeholders, so as to facilitate the smooth integration of ICT in teaching and learning, as well as creating awareness on the use of ICT to facilitate across all levels. So creating awareness from learners, educators, administrators, and the community, including parents themselves. So we have supporting pillar 2, partnership and resource mobilization, having this is strategy, strengthening collaboration with the other education stakeholders, promoting resource mobilization to support education with private and the community themselves, including parents. So we have the governance, management, and the regulatory framework. For example, some of the strategies include establishing a centralized coordination of ICT in education and the training the ministries and the of guidelines for ICT integration in education and training across all levels. We have supporting pillar 5, security, safety, and ethics, where we have ensured that ICT curricula are integrated with security, safety, and ethics modules. For example, focusing on AI technology now, where the ethics aspects or contexts are very, very important for students for learners or educators across all levels. We have ensured that the strategy will enhance security, safety, and ethics in the use of ICT in education and the training. So we have the data management and analytics. So we have support, technical support and the maintenance. So establishing technical support centers for assistance, technical support centers established, for example, at the district, regional, and national levels. And of course, promoting peer ICT technical support networks, which will be facilitating the support and the maintenance of the ICT infrastructures across all levels, from primary to higher education. This is the overview of the National Digital Education Strategy for Tanzania, and based on this strategy, of course, there are very, very important guidelines that have to be developed. So this is some of the guidelines that, as the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology is currently developing, so as to enforce and make sure that the current strategy is successfully implemented across all levels. Now, one of the guidelines, the National Digital Education Guidelines for Basic Education, and the National Digital Education Guidelines for TVET Education, the National Digital Education Guidelines for Higher Education. So these are three important, of course, guidelines and documents which will be specific for these levels: one, basic education, TVET education, and the higher education. And these guidelines, of course, will draw the strategies, will draw from the strategies which have been identified in the core and supporting pillars. So based on these guidelines, it will be very, very easily for this strategy to be implemented. Of course, along with the National Digital Education Strategy, there are also the implementation plan, which have been developed to ensure that every sector, every person, every learner, every educator, every parent is involved in the digital education transformation for the next 5 years. So thank you very much. This marks the end of my presentation of the National Digital Education Strategy. I want to thank you again for listening. Thank you very much.
Wow. A round of applause to Dr. Alcado. You have really tried to serve the little time you had with 32 slides. Thank you so much for such an overview. I think now at least everybody is having a glimpse of what does this strategy looks like. So thank you so much, Dr. Alcado. Right now we are going to our second session of panel discussion, and we are going to have 4 panelists. To start with, I would like to welcome Dr. Edefonse Mfuka. Dr. Edefonse Mfuka is the Director of Consultancy and Outreach Service, the coordinator of UNESCO Chair on Teacher Education and Curriculum. He is also a lecturer in computer science and information technology at the Open University of Tanzania. Dr. Edefonse is going to speak mainly on the draft of the Tanzania Digital Education Strategy, but touching on the sustainability, monitoring, evaluation, and the learning focus of the strategy. Dr. Mfuka, you are having 5 to 6 minutes. I hope this time will be enough for you so that at least we have enough time for everybody to speak. Thank you so much. The floor is yours, Dr. Mfuka. Let's clap for Dr. Mfuka. Yes.
Very much, and let me share here. Can you see what I've shared?
Not yet. From
Not
my
yet?
side. Yes.
It is indicating in the screen already. Ricardo, can you see the screen or not?
Okay. Oh yes, now it's
Yeah,
it's coming.
yeah, I can see the screen. Yeah, we can see.
Okay. So so maybe let me see if I can put the
Yes, it's
slideshow.
yes, it's here.
Right.
It's coming. We can see your screen, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much for, first of all, for TEDI for organizing this, and I'm very glad to be part of this event, which is, I think, very important. Which is coordinated by Africa Evidence Network. So on the importance of the evidence-informed decision making, which is also important to the development of our countries. So as the moderator indicated, I will be speaking also about the Tanzania National Digital Education Strategy that my colleague have just presented. But myself, I'll be just focusing on a sustainability focus, since it is an aspect that is very important for, when we look at it from long view perspective. So Dr. Ricardo talked about our national digital strategy, all these core and the support pillars that are in it. But myself, I am focusing on sustainability aspect, but as well as the monitoring and evaluation learning, on the fact that these are components that ensures this national digital education strategy will be sustainable, over a long time. So in that case, talking about sustainability, within this document of National Digital Education Strategy, we have an area of that is speaking on sustainability, and we are ensuring that we are talking about sustainable integration of ICT in education is an aspect that is supposed to be to get support and commitment from the central, centrally, but as well as these different institutions that finally will be implementing this strategy. Now, one aspect that emphasizes from sustainability point of view is the issue of the alignment, the issue of integration of ICT into strategic planning processes that are aligned to technology initiatives with education goals and objectives. So, because sometimes we talk about the ICT, not sometimes, ICT is a tool, so it will bring the value in the education setup when it can be able to align it to education goals and objectives. So that's one aspect of sustainability, and this will ensure that it brings in the ICT experts as well as educational experts in making sure that we achieve the expected learning outcome in our country. But also the encouragement, of course, of the training, which is very important, that so many aspects that is going to change the way we do things. We need training from educators' point of view, from learning point of view, as well as the administrators, without forgetting the quality assurer that they will be there over the time in the process of monitoring and evaluation. But also the issue of the issue of maintenance of hardware and software, so that they can keep supporting, the education purposes. And also the issue of regular follow-up on integration of ICT in education in different forums, in different aspects that are related to education, so that this can be the talk, of to support the education. But also important is enforcing guidelines, having guidelines that can be able that will implement this national digital education strategy that has been presented, and it is to be done in all levels. Now, we have seen that basically, looking a little bit in details when talking about sustainability, we have seen that basically we are talking about four kind of sustainability: socio-economic, technological, and environment. And we have put this way so that we don't leave anything that is related to the entire ecosystem integration in
Dr. Mfuka, you are muted. Let me unmute you.
Sorry, I hope I just muted now, not for the time.
No,
I think
okay.
somebody muted. All right. So I was saying that we have identified different sustainability categories within our strategy, and this is social, economic, technological, and environment, so that we don't leave anything, in this. So economic sustainability obviously is talking about the issue of financial aspects, which are important in integrating in the ICT use in education. And the focus is not only focusing on initial investment, but looking at the maintenance, scalability that is required over the time, and the resource optimization that will be having around. So, and these are four, 6 strategies that we have identified. We've identified in this area of economic sustainability, of course. You see the. Sorry, can you see the? Can you see the presentation, please?
Yes.
Not now.
Yes, I can see the presentations. Go ahead, Dr. Mfuka.
Okay. Sorry, something happened, so I'm not sure what it is. So I was talking about economy. So we have strategies in that. I will not go through them, but basically, one is looking at the entire ecosystem from investment all the way to the upgrades and training. And the last one is about ensuring the issue of tracking and performance. Making sure that we invest on training and support different programs that will support the educators and the learners. So that is the economic sustainability. Further to that, there is social sustainability, which focuses on the issue of inclusivity, equitable and cultural response of our learning environment through ICT. We know that in Tanzania, it's quite large place, and there is different urban, countryside and so on. There could be different environments. So in that case, ensuring, as we talk about sustainability, ensuring that kind of environment in which we have like four strategies in that sustainability, where we are looking at ensuring the digital divide across the urban and those countryside, but also fostering the culture of collaboration that among institutions, parents, communities, to ensure that all of this can support the online platform and the community and the COPs. But also the issue of awareness and training of educators, learners, communities, and all that. But also ensuring the issue of education content is culturally relevant, representative, and inclusive, that promote the sense of belonging. And of course, with that, whatever we are doing, this strategy will be sustainable in that way. But the other aspect is the issue of environmental sustainability, which looks at the issue of ecology footprint of technology intervention, that seeks to minimize the adverse of environmental impact of all these things that we'll be putting in place in terms of infrastructure and all that. So there are 3 strategies, but one is to bring in the issue of use of energy efficient ICT infrastructure and devices, to minimize the energy consumption, but also of enforcing policies like e-waste and so on, and also the issue of use of digital resources to reduce paper consumption and therefore minimizing the environmental impact. And the last one in terms of sustainability is the issue of technological, which is basically looking at the aspect of technological aspect in terms of infrastructure, the connectivity, the devices, and all these kind of things, and to ensure that everyone can be able to have some sort of access. Now, the other part of sustaining this strategy is the issue of development and use of guidelines that already Dr. Ricardo mentioned, but basically it is the 3 guidelines, as you can see: basic education, TVET, and the higher education, and each of these addressing issue of AI, artificial intelligence, related guideline in each of these level. And this level, they are there so that the strategy is wide, it is, across the all levels. But when it comes to the guidelines, we focus on each of these levels so that we can be able to go in details of, let us say, TVET on aspect that is supposed to concentrate that is related to skills, occupational skills, and so on. And the last aspect is the issue of monitoring and evaluation, in which basically we have monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which promotes the issue of all the time monitoring, evaluating, and learning from that process, so that it can be able to assist us in the progressive way of ICT use in education and training. And basically, there are like 5 things to be done. Of course, we need to have national, email framework that we track all of these at all levels of education, but also enhancing the issue of inclusive, gender-sensitive, evidence-based mechanism. We are talking about the week of the Africa evidence and so on, but also the issue of promoting multi-agency approach in undertaking mail of digital education, so that all these people that they are involved, as Dr. Ricardo indicated, different in implementation plan. We have not only this Ministry of Education and the TAMISEMI, but also other ministries that are related to ICT and so on, and the other institutions that will be involved. So that multi-agency approach, including the PPP, private partnership, public partnership, but also enhancing the integration into MEC data for relevant decision making, so that all these data that are coming in, they can be able to assist at different levels in progressing. And the most important, the last part, is the issue of strengthening quality assurance mechanism to ensure ICT integration, because most of the time we see these quality assurance, sometimes they are ones that they are always, their work is to go and look at the teachers, what they are doing, and them how to improve. Now, those people, bringing them on board, it will assist quite a lot to ensure that they will be part of what the integration of ICT in education, and ensuring that thing evolves and continue to the achievement of learning outcome. Those are few things that I were having for contribution in this panel. Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be part of this evidence-informed decision-making week. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Mfuka, for a wonderful presentation. A round of applause for Dr. Mfuka, please. Thank you very much for such a profound presentation. Okay, so now we're going to the second panelist. The second panelist was supposed to be Mr. Moses Ngari from Botswana, but Mr. Ishan Baba has requested to be the second panelist because of his other commitment from 5. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Ishan Baba, who is a machine learning engineer, but also a founder and the director of Educate AI. Mr. Ishan Baba, the floor is yours. Mr. Ishan is going to share on the topic of global perspectives on digital education. Mr.
Thanks, Lori.
Ishan?
Yeah, I'm here. Dr. Mfuka, do you mind if I take
Oh, Dr. Mfuka, your presentation is still on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Done.
Oh, well, good afternoon to everyone. I'm calling from New York, so it's my morning, but appreciate you fitting me into your schedule. Give me a sec here. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh. Oh, wow. It's not allowing me to.
Okay, I think I've given you the.
No, everyone else was able. Sorry. Sorry, let me restart. I think there's some issue with my. It doesn't allow me to go my entire screen. Oof, this is dangerous. Nothing, right? I'm so sorry. Please give me.
I don't know what's happening, but on my side, it looks like I've given you the mandate to present. You are in the presenters group.
Oh, perfect. It says only meeting organizers and presenters can share.
Really? Okay. Let me add you again. It looks like you. Wait, just a minute. Oh yeah, here. Let me give you the access again. You should be able to present now.
Yeah, allowing me now. Perfect. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Like I said, my name is Ishan Babar. I'm founder of Educate, and yeah, I spent most of my life actually growing up in Zimbabwe, not too far away from you guys. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of present these kind of perspectives on global education. Most of my experience has been, growing up in Zimbabwe, living in India for a little bit. I've worked across Silicon Valley, Chicago, and I'm calling you now from New York. So I think, I'm pretty siloed in my way of thinking about education and ed tech. So excited to kind of share my learnings and thoughts with the greater group. So I think what's really exciting and what really changed education, especially the digital landscape in general, was the pandemic. What was so interesting, and there's a couple stats here around how students are participating and how that's changed. So the two kind of like metrics I want to focus on is basically pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, how often kids are spending online. I don't know who has children, who has students, who are you're monitoring how they behave, but they have a strong kind of willingness and desire to use this like technology, computers, their phones to really grasp knowledge. And what we see from the pandemic is that we've kind of normalize this new way of learning to a point where teachers actually could trust these different sources. So what kind of created from COVID was this idea of the study web. Okay, so the study web basically is something that I've personally used a lot, like with my YouTube videos, learning tutorials on how to code, how to kind of like research new ideas. TikTok has become very popular for those who are very young, and Discord. And really what's been happening is that we've kind of been developing this online community ever since this pandemic. And it's grown to a degree where this is almost normalized and part of our educational system. What's even more interesting is that universities are paying attention too. And what's been happening is that, partnerships with like Coursera and like kind of like Udemy, they're partnering with real universities to kind of offer these accredited programs. And what you're actually seeing is that both students and teachers are actually seeing value both in this kind of like digitization. So since my background mostly is in Gen AI, I want to kind of like highlight and focus specifically on how Gen AI is actually taking that next jump for us. So being able to promote like AI literacy, and actually like acknowledging how AI proficiency is almost as essential as computer skills nowadays. And by acknowledging also the ethical concerns, we can actually come up with strategies and best practices for safe AI deployment. I don't know, I would love to survey people in the room a little bit about how they kind of like reacted to ChatGPT launching, but I know for a fact that many schools actually banned this technology. They were fearful. They were thinking about the demise of teaching and plagiarism, and I think like there's really like a gap in terms of like how we kind of promote AI and technology in general. So being able to firstly acknowledge about how to use the technology is really the greatest barrier that we face today. So just to kind of like double down a little bit on the AI side is there was recently a survey done at Harvard around this use of generative AI in schools, and 87.5% of students are now using generative AI. That's a big number. And 30% of those actually pay for those premium AI subscriptions. This is quite alarming. This is like kind of overnight as well, where the whole culture of learning is changing, whether the teachers like it or not. And what's been interesting about the study is that the lower socioeconomic backgrounds actually face inequalities because those who have premium AI subscriptions get this kind of extra level of advantage. And those who don't maybe receive financial aid are 2 times more likely to pay for these premium services, which is just really interesting to think about, where now this kind of tool where, you can get information, you can get something explained to you is available. And we really don't know how to handle it, how to kind of incorporate that into our curriculum. So I think like in general, there's been some very good bodies of work that I think even these past presenters have referenced. And that's really just like creating some sort of standard and framework. So we've been working pretty closely with the Ministry of Education in Zimbabwe and in South Africa. And really the idea is to kind of create these like inclusive national policies related to AI and education, develop competencies and trainings, being able to create a knowledge base for how competency should be measured and different policies around that. And then also invest in kind of capacity building, training educators, specifically in data science and coding. So like I said, I represent a company called Educate, and most of my background has been in the data science field. I've led teams across the US as well as globally. Have several patents to my name, and really was excited about how the fundamentals of learning are going to change. I'm partnered with a lot of with the professor, Dr. Panashe Chiringe, who is one of the leaders in the whole Southern African areas, and we've kind of been working on these kinds of problems where now that we have access to Gen AI tools, what is the problem that really does solve? So this is an example that I want to break you through to how we're doing this in Zimbabwe, but high level, we're focusing on teaching support, where we have seen like how teachers actually work around 50 hours per week, but only 49% of that is direct interactions with students. So teachers are naturally overworked, students are underserved, and many schools actually need an AI strategy. They don't have an idea about how to respond to ChatGPT being omnipresent, and really want to lean on governments and private companies to be able to bridge the gap for them to be able to facilitate learning. So the way that we've been kind of thinking about this and adopting this specifically in Zimbabwe is being able to design this idea of an educator. So the idea of an educator is basically this teaching AI assistant designed for students with built-in controls for teachers, where we can actually adapt different pedagogies and curriculum needs that's local to our country's curriculum, and being able to enable students to master subjects at their own time with the ideas of AI tutoring. We do things like content creation, grading, feedback, and students can basically engage with this by speaking, visually, chatting, and then actually sharing handwritten work across different kinds of channels. So we are built around scale. We've kind of partnered with Cambridge and IB, but also local ZIMSEC standards. And we basically have built this infrastructure where we can kind of adapt as, you know, ChatGPT 5, 6, and 7 come along. So the way it works basically is that like we launch our like kind of AI educator in seconds. The students can basically engage with this via kind of whatever medium that they need. And teachers are then able to actually see how students are using these tools and actually be able to make specific actionable insights where you can create different focus groups and understand where the gaps in knowledge come from different like homeworks and things like that. So the general premise for Educate, as just an example, is that we're trying to like really look at generative AI as a positive step in society. We can use this to save teachers time and actually engage students, and really adapt that specifically to the African market, where mediums like WhatsApp, where most of like kind of like the internet access is quite tough. We can actually embed our solutions to actually engage and promote our community as is. So the way we've kind of started and think about like measuring our success is that being able to actually save teachers time and students to actually engage with these AI tools. We know that they're using it so frequently, but what we actually want to kind of encourage is that they're using it in a place where it's collaborative to a teacher. Okay, so the general idea that like you know, companies like Educate and others like local growing across Africa, what we're trying to build really is a positive way to actually enforce this. Policies can basically lead us so far, but being able to actually offer practical solutions, I think, is really the crux of where everyone is going. There's companies in the US like Magic School, Quizlet, who are really trying to adopt practical approaches to what AI and what these kind of new emerging technologies can actually bring up, and then kind of working hand in hand with policymakers is really how I kind of see the future with AI. So I'll keep it brief, but yeah, high level, you know, what we really want to kind of adopt, especially within the kind of like the African ecosystem, is basically this equity and this idea that there will be this almost new digital divide. With this kind of like accelerated learning and teaching capabilities, we want to kind of adopt this early across all of our countries. So thank you for listening to me and fitting me into the schedule. But yeah, really excited for Tanzania, countries, especially in Southern Africa, to really start thinking about this in a more practical way, and really adopting these technologies.
Wow, thank you so much, Ishan, for such a presentation. Now we know how we can integrate AI, and we should not fear it. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure the Ministry of Education is here and they've heard you, and I'm sure in their implementation of the strategy, they should really include you. Thank you so much for that. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Moses Nkugori from the Open University of Botswana. Mr. Moses, is Mr. Moses around? Oh yes, I can
am.
see you. Yes, Mr. Moses is coming from the Open University of Botswana. He is mainly a network specialist. He's mainly a network specialist, and he is going to speak on the best practices in digital education from Africa. Best practices in digital education from Africa.
Okay, can I confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, please. We can see your screen very well, sir.
Okay, a quick one. I've been in the industry for a bit of time, and I worked in the government of Botswana and the Botswana College of Education, and then Botswana Open University. I was involved in actually ensuring that our own university transitioning from manual processes all the way to what it is now, offering all the courses online and transacting online. And I was also roped in to assist the Ministry of Education to actually transform what it's actually doing right now. I will go through the presentation as follows. The introduction, education digital transformation, our journey as a country, the challenges and lessons, and then close. Botswana has a vision, which we call Vision 2636. This is a continuation of the initial vision, which was 2016. This vision articulates each area in the country. With that, also in 2004, we had our first ICT national policy. In this policy, it clearly stated the key areas that the government of Botswana would like to address. With these two, the Ministry of Education developed Education and Training Sector Strategic Plan, which is we call the ETSSP. It was scheduled to start on 2015 to 2020. You will see how it actually stretched beyond that. So the ministry decided to follow through the ETSSP, where we have a pillar specifically for digital transformation. Now, with the ministry digital transformation and the ETSSP, they wanted to automate the educational processes from the schools all the way to the ministry headquarters. Some of those areas I will articulate later. So they wanted also to look at the teaching and learning through technology, also digitize the libraries and educational resources, also ultimately provide what you call self-service or educational self-service. With that, they would also want to have what you call integrated educational management information system. They call it TEMIS, where data will be aggregated from secondary schools, primary schools, higher institution of learning for the purposes of generating reports and planning. Ultimately, the Ministry of Education, its dream is to do advanced analytics and do modeling with using AI, and they needed all these to be in place for the government through Ministry of Education to deliver advanced analytics and models. So with this structure, they also decided, or we decided, to look at issues like curriculum development and content revision, which curriculum development was completed before 2021. Content is currently being improved in some areas. Some is already been completed. Also, the part that we looked at critically is infrastructure, ICT infrastructure, both at the schools and at the ministry, and generally in the country. There was also need to look at policies and legislation. A lot of legislation had to be looked at, all the way from cybersecurity legislation, Data Protection Act, and the related ones that also include the policies on young people or underage. The ministry also decided to specifically look at change management, like my colleague has said earlier, look at capacity building, and of critical importance, the funding. Now, out of what I've just said, the ministry then developed projects which involved schools infrastructure, which had local area networks, computer labs, Wi-Fi, and of course, electricity. So fortunately, the country, through another project of the vision, there's a project which says every village must have electricity, which the government, I would say 95% of the villages in the country are now electrified. 82% of them are in the national grid. The rest are using solar and generators. So they also looked at the student and teacher devices, which means laptops and tablets. This is a critical one because the government, through the Ministry of Education, focused on Form 4 and Form 5. This started last year and this year. Form 4 is equivalent of your O-level upper secondary school. These ones have been allocated for those teachers and students. Schools connectivity, like I said, it was very critical that each school must have a connectivity, and there are standards which have been set in terms of the minimum bandwidth per school. So some schools are connected through fiber, some through copper, some through LTE, some through satellite, depending where they are in the part of the country. As you are aware, Botswana is big in terms of area, but sparsely populated. Curriculum review, like I said, it has been done for secondary school. It's complete for primary, is complete. Digital content, currently what is complete is for upper secondary. The rest are ongoing for lower secondary and for primary. Human capital capacitating the teachers, technical staff. Currently, the government of Botswana, they've trained about 5,000 teachers who are in senior secondary schools, and the training is ongoing. The target is by mid next year, they wanted to have covered around 15,000 teachers. This has been done through collaboration with the ministry, the existing universities in the country, and also a Commonwealth of Learning is also assisting, and UNICEF. Policies, like I said, they've been looked at, legislation has been looked at to ensure that we don't find ourselves having challenges. Now, in terms of automation, like I said, currently the government has, each and every school has what you call an admin system. They call it EduAdmin. It deals with student registration, reports, all the tests are recorded, and the monthly reports or term reports are produced from the system. And this data is aggregated and sent to the ministry through a centralized repository from each school. Higher education institutions run their own systems. Like I know OUT has got its own systems. Currently, there's also what you call a student loan system. You know, government of Botswana sponsors students from pre-primary all the way to tertiary. And at tertiary, students are given loans by government. Some are grants, some are loans. So if you complete your O-levels or A-levels, automatically you apply from your home which is self-service. You upload your content. This system is linked to our examination council. It's linked to the universities to check if indeed you've been admitted by the university, and with linked to your national identity card. So automatically it tracks everything. And once you've uploaded everything, the system in less than 5 minutes, it will, if you qualify, it will give you a grant loan scheme, which you can then submit to university or tertiary. In less than 5 minutes, if you've uploaded, you get approved and you get a scholarship or funding. And other systems the government is currently working on. There's what you call a government system, which is used for procurement and purchasing. This one is also available to all the schools in the country electronically. So even parents who want to pay for a small amount that they need to pay at schools, you go to any school, you pay. If I'm based in a town called Francistown, and probably my spouse who's probably working in the capital city can pay in any school in the capital city, then send the receipt by email to the school in Francistown. They will see it automatically in the system. Now, our journey to get to where we are. Like I said, initially there was a gap analysis and an inventory of everything that we have done and everything that we wanted to do were articulated, and implementation followed. Initially, we did a thorough evaluation of current business model or the strategy of the ministry, and a new strategy was developed, like I said. So from this strategy, the IT teams that is there with the executive, they came up with another strategy that deals with technology now and how they're going to deal with it. Baseline and targets were actually also created. Based on what we said, the review of existing infrastructure. Every school was visited with a template to say, what do we have on the ground? What is that you don't have on the ground? Those templates were populated with all the infrastructure, be it computers, computer labs, space, electricity, networking. All those were done and synthesized, and solutions were designed to say, in a particular school, in this kind of region, we need this kind of solution. We have got about 780 primary schools distributed in the country, about 280 secondary schools. All these were done. So, like I said, the design were created, prepared, and actual funding sought, and all these processes then were actually delivered. Like I said, we also decided as a country to say we need to build a roadmap for migration to the digital infrastructure. We need to see how we're going to modernize our environment. We need to see how we're going to transform. Standards were developed for desktops, laptops, like I said, even the connectivity, the lab sizes, and how the teachers are going to be trained. All those things were manuals and guidelines were developed. Stakeholders, like I said, were also mapped and involved. This is very critical because stakeholders there we mean, for example, Ministry of Infrastructure and Technology, which is responsible for buildings, Ministry for deals with lands, water, and electricity. They were brought on board, and because this project reported directly to the Office of the President, every ministry reports, and ministries are required to form teams that deals with electricity, deals with water, deals with technology, deals with training and security. So all the stakeholders needed to be there so that they report together, they plan together. The funding, there's no wastage of funding. one does not buy a generator when there's electricity in the village. Now, we also developed frameworks for support, technical support, functional support, framework for supporting hardware, software, networks, and processes. There are teams which deals with technical support for hardware and software, networks, those who support the process themselves. They are not necessarily IT people. Some of them are business people who deal with, for example, the process of procurement, the process in the system for pay. So we have teams that deals with that. Also, in every school, there's at minimum, one ICT officer who has got a backup of technical teachers, who are those who are probably from the science and math. Now, the funding comes from government and also partners. Government of Botswana partnered with ISPs, partnered with what you call BOCRA, the regulator. The regulator currently has a levy in every service provider who's providing internet. With this service provider, that levy is used to target provision of internet to rural areas. So we build or we connect rural areas through this levy. Of late, since last year, the universities and research institutions also now created what we call NRAN through UbuntuNet. I think we have it also in Tanzania. I think we call it TENET, something like that, where cheaper internet, probably the cost of 20% of what we used to pay, is actually being provided to universities and research institutions. Now, in this journey, we face challenges. Like I said, Botswana is sparsely populated, and this actually pushed the cost of development in these areas. And through the concerted effort from all the sectors, including the villages and villagers, the government decided to provide internet both to the schools and to the tribal admin centers and libraries. The biggest challenge that we also had is digital literacy gaps. This was a big challenge, is still a challenge. We have a situation where we find some teachers are way behind, some are slow, some students are way ahead than their teachers. This also gives another problem. The other one is maintenance costs. These devices, they're actually expensive to maintain. And as we know, where you give students devices, damages are always there, and to maintain this damage is a challenge. We had to set up regional centers where our service providers, they are there in the regions, for easy taking of this device for sorting out. The other challenge is the monitoring of students as they use these gadgets. You know, students, once they have access to internet, it's another challenge. Monitoring them and having tools to monitor them is a big challenge. Imagine somebody who's a biology teacher trying to teach students, they go to any site they would like to. Trying to block that also denies them access. So we are still finding a way of dealing with this. What have we learned? Strategic planning at the highest level is very important. You need to clearly define the educational strategies you want to deploy. The business model, the strategy needs to be very clear so that the IT people, they can easily build a new strategy, build a roadmap, and the policies that you develop also, they align seamlessly to the strategies that are required. Thorough review of critical areas is very critical, because without reviews at every stage, you are likely to have challenges. These reviews are actually done with the users. They should give us feedback and actually to say, this is what we wanted. sustained monitoring and evaluation. I'll give you an example here. In Botswana, we realized late that when we say we are monitoring, what are you monitoring? Are you monitoring the access? Are you monitoring the usage? What do you mean by usage? What do you mean by access? Someone can go into a site and if somebody have gone to a site or into a portal, do they actually learn? How do you say them somebody has learned? These are the areas that we are currently have to improve. And it's a commitment that everybody has to deal with. Now, we have learned that we need to leverage on an existing expertise. Expertise from the universities, expertise from other industries of which they've actually done digital transformation. Like banks, they've done it. So we can actually leverage from them. You can benchmark from them. We also realized that we had what you call under-appreciation. The initial scope, we thought it was an easy thing. We realized that now the strategy of the ministry, we thought to be from 5 years, 2015 to 2020. Unfortunately, these projects extend beyond that. So the demands which we actually put forward, some of them have been delayed. And these ones include the full usage of AI and advanced analytics and building of models, because they rely on most of these other systems and infrastructure to be in place. We also we learned that we need to improve our collaboration with universities, collaboration with industry experts, and globally. For example, with yourself, the Tanzanian government and Ministry of Education, we need to collaborate with you and learn from you also. What you could be having as a challenge could be a solution to us. What you could have as a solution might not be a solution to you, or you can tweak it. Thank you. That's all I wanted to share.
Wow, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, colleagues.
You're muted, Gloria.
Gloria is muted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gloria, you are muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? I think, yeah, I think my screen, my screen
we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moses, all the way from the Open University of Botswana for such a profound presentation. And I could tell the Ministry of Education from Tanzania, they must have been writing every note, because it's like you're also telling them the path they should take after the strategy on the implementation part. Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your contribution, and hopefully we would have further conversations even after this webinar. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Promise. I'd like to welcome Mr. Promise Nduku. He is the Evidence Synthesis Lead and Co-Director from Pan-African Collective for Evidence. Mr. Promise is going to share on the role of evidence in shaping digital education policies. Mr. Promise, you are having like 5 to 6 minutes. Very sorry, being the last one, sometimes it's a bit challenging because others have eaten all the time. And meanwhile, while Mr. Promise is starting the presentation, I know a lot of speakers have shared a lot of insights. And if you have a question, if you have a question or you have suggestion, please, you can use the Mentimeter link I have shared in the chat box, and the passcode I've shared it as well. So we'll keep on, or you can use the chat box as well to share your insights. Thank you so much, Mr. Promise. The floor is yours.
Right. Thank you, Gloria. Please confirm if you can see my slides.
Yes, we can see your slides.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you to the previous presenters as well. Yeah, thank you, TEDI, for organizing and inviting me to be part of this webinar, and also to the Africa Evidence Network for such an amazing week as we showcase evidence-informed decision-making from across the African continent. And also, before I start my presentation, just to congratulate the government of the United Republic of Tanzania through the Minister of Education for launching and developing this strategy, which shows, strong and further commitment to strengthening the education system in the country. So let me get on with my presentation. And I think when we talk about the role of evidence in shaping digital education policies, we just lend ourselves to talk about evidence-informed decision-making, and that's going to be my starting point. We acknowledge, evidence-based policy making and evidence-informed making, when practiced accurately, actually has a potential to aid or help policymakers to make better decisions and achieve better outcomes. And this can actually be achieved by drawing upon the best available evidence from research. And I'll speak more, around what we call the ethical imperative or moral imperative of using evidence to inform decision making, and that echoes strongly with our principles here at PACE, which is a center that is focused on supporting the use of evidence to reduce poverty and inequality. And three key principles come to mind, and that's really around economic, because if we use the best available evidence, we avoid waste, because we get to understand what has worked and what does not work. So instead of implementing programs that may not work, with using the best available evidence, we get to understand what works and draw upon those insights. And also, there's the idea of holding our decision makers accountable after they've made the decision. So if we use evidence, and the public can basically ask the policymakers, how did you get to make this decision? And evidence, they can provide the evidence as to what works. And also, from an equity point of view, we want the voices of the marginalized being incorporated in the decision-making process, and research evidence allows you to do that. But maybe just as a quick overview of what we're talking about when we talk about evidence synthesis, and in a way, I'm proposing, when we talk about the role of evidence here, proposing an approach of evidence synthesis. Well, this is our bread and butter, right? So forgive me for my biases. My bias here, as an institution, we eat, breathe, and dream evidence synthesis, which involves basically combining information from different multiple studies on the same topic to comprehensively understand what the findings from these studies. And this actually helps different stakeholders, be it policymakers, institutions, and the public itself, to make more informed decision making. And the idea is that the combined results from many pieces of evidence are actually more reliable than a single piece, and that forms the core of our work. So maybe to also understand the value of evidence, since it's just to think about what a world where we don't do synthesis looks like, right? So we have all these different research studies that exist out there, and they're all shiny, they're all crying and clamoring for the attention of policymakers, right? But the key question is, if we don't really try to gather these and understand the research landscape that is out there, we easily get lost, in the field of knowledge. So essentially, evidence synthesis is really about collating and making a sense of body or field of knowledge. That's what it is, gathering. And there's many ways in which we can make a sense of body of knowledge. And I'm going to weigh in on basically two forms, which is basically evidence maps and systematic review, again, because this is our bread and butter. I'll focus mainly on those. But literature reviews are also an option. This has become my least favorite way of making sense of a body of knowledge. So let me weigh you in on these two approaches, and I'll try as much as possible to bring it closer to home and see how it can fit in within the strategy that is being proposed. I think someone needs to mute themselves.
Ngoja nimwambie aje.
Lore, can you assist us? I think someone needs to mute.
Okay, sawa. Hata hiyo ni nzuri.
Arcado, Andre mute. Arcado, Dr. Arcado.
Aye. Hello?
Please, Dr. Alcado, can you mute yourself?
To go? Yeah, so or not?
You're good to go. You're good to go. You're good to go, Promise.
All right, thank you. So, like I've said earlier, I'm going to weigh in on two basic tools that we can use to basically support the use of evidence making in decision making, and particularly when it comes to digital education policies, right? So one is, maps and systematic reviews that don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive in terms of how you produce these. We have had experience where we have actually developed evidence maps and then used them basically to conduct systematic reviews. But just to weigh in on some of these specific questions, specific areas, I won't talk about all of them, but if we want to understand, for instance, what is the body of knowledge that exists out there across, say, all these 7 pillars, just to understand what research has been done out there, evidence map can become an option to explore because they can give you, you can understand the nature and size of the evidence around a particular topic area. Yet, also thinking about systematic reviews, that generally focus on specific narrow questions, they become, a lucrative options because you can understand what works, how, for whom, and why, right? But again, to emphasize, you can actually be able to conduct an evidence map and then proceed to do a systematic review after understanding the landscape itself and also identifying the areas of synthesis, right? And then, evidence maps allow you to categorize and summarize the evidence without detailed data extraction, and that becomes more of a technical process here, but this is just to explain what options we basically have. But when it comes to a statistical when it comes to systematic reviews, you have to conduct in-depth data extraction, and it facilitates meta-analysis and synthesis, and specifically because because of the purpose of these different types of products, a systematic review will be aiming to understand what works. Then when it comes to the use of the product itself, right, evidence maps, they allow you to identify the gaps in terms of the research, what areas have not been researched, also to inform future research and provide an overview of the evidence, yet to understand what works, why, for whom, when it comes to the use. Systematic reviews, kind of are able to provide you definite answers to specific research questions to inform policy and practice. So this is essentially just a broad overview of the two tools within the evidence synthesis space that can be adopted, particularly for this digital education strategy that is being proposed. So let me stop there. I know I had limited time, but I welcome more engagement after the webinar to talk about more technical details in terms of producing evidence maps and systematic review. With that, I thank you and over.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Promise. Evidence is all that we are celebrating this week and forever. And so I'm sure all other stakeholders from the ministry, I can see a lot of international and local education organization here. They have seen the role of evidence from your presentation. And this is all that we are embracing, that all the decisions we are making should come from the evidence. Thank you so much, Mr. Promise. Wow, we are behind time for about 15 minutes, but I'm sure we will be able to catch up. So up to now, I haven't received any comment, question, or suggestion. So that tells me that everything is clear. Now we are heading to another segment, in this segment, basically, we are going to have to hear, it's an open floor for questions and contribution from attendees. But before we get into that, for the speakers who are still in the meeting, would love to hear your the collection of your input and suggestions in improving the strategy of Tanzania, the national digital education strategy of Tanzania. What are your insights? How did you find it? I know you haven't gotten enough time to go through it all, but from the overview that Dr. Alcado has shared, I'm sure now you have a little bit of a glimpse of what it looks and the roadmap it wants to go through. So what are your input and suggestions? Quickly from the presenters, and then we will open the floor to all other attendees for contributions and Q&A. The floor is yours, presenters. Mr. Promise, Mr. Ishan, if you're still around, Mr. Moses, what are your insights regarding the presented strategy?
Can I just jump in there?
Yes, Promise, you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. And please forgive me. It might seem like I'm going back to some of the points that I've highlighted, but generally my proposition would weigh in and reflect on some of the components that I've basically discussed in my presentation, right? And I think what would be great is to understand across all the 7 pillars, maybe to develop an evidence base and see what research evidence basically exists across these 7 pillars, infrastructure and access. What is the evidence that is available? What research is being conducted? Perhaps we can also take it a step further and understand what the research says in terms of what has been effective in those areas, and effective for what particular outcomes. And when I speak of outcomes, then maybe possibly I can touch on where I think there's areas for improvement in terms of the strategy. It's being specific around exactly which specific educational outcomes do we want to focus on. Yes, it could be maths outcomes, but what is it about math outcomes that we want to improve? English outcomes, geographical outcomes, all of these elements. So let me stop there and head over to my fellow panelists. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Promise. And again, for the presenters, I'm reminded here that I forgot to also mention that Dr. Nfuka has presented as well on the sustainability plan. What do you think about it, especially Mr. Moses from Botswana? Botswana as a country, you have gone far ahead from us in digital strategy, and what do you have to say on that? Please, the floor is yours. Anyone from the presenters?
Okay. In fact, what you just mentioned, that was going to be my presentation or my response to say, like I said, sustainability in Africa, we found it to be an issue. I'll give an example. In the country, Botswana had gone proprietary on the Microsoft route. Now, Ministry of Education had a challenge when we started looking at this issue, licensing. So we are still discussing it. So the reason why we found ourselves in this situation is before we took the route of digital transformation, the government blindly just went to Microsoft products globally, kind of across the country. So now we need to revisit to say, where do we need to rely on off-the-shelf products, specifically where we are going to go mass? The reason being, are we going to be able to sustain what we want to do, the way we want to do it? Do we want to go back to say people should pay school fees? Because Botswana had decided in the past that they don't want basic education to be paid for. But if we go this route, are we going to be able to sustain ourselves? What are other sustainable models that we need to build? So maintenance, sustainability, and continuity, we need to look at that. So that, we don't have a solution now, but at least as the government of Tanzania, initially as part of the strategy, had an introspection and say, maybe we need to look at this area. And I congratulate you for having thought of that much earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. You've just reminded me when we were having the local stakeholders meeting discussing the strategy, there was one student, actually, if I remember correctly, who stood up and say, so if you're going to implement this strategy, does it mean that our school fees are going to increase? So when you spoke about the sustainability and how we can sustain it, I just remembered the comment of that kid that day. Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm sure the ministry committee is noting down everything. So is Mr. Ishan around? Mr. Ishan?
Yeah, hi. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I sense that like a lot of the sentiment around evidence-based policies, I think, are a really good one. I just like kind of like want to promote like being able to take that that step via like experimentation. So honestly, what was like really what my government was really receptive to was the idea that can we conduct pilots with, to you guys' case, Tanzanian curriculum? Can we be able to test like the use cases of math and literacy and reading, and actually promote like some sort of like hypothesis testing? Because the vision is fantastic, and you're hopefully going to unlock a lot of developer talent that can basically build this out. But keeping that experimentation and that data, that analytics close, so that this strategy can always iterate and develop local to Tanzania. So we're definitely still in the process of learning what works and what doesn't work, what mediums we need to kind of adapt to our students, and what channels to basically get the most out of these technologies. So just practical experimentation is something that I just highly encourage to kind of keep promoting this evidence-based policy making.
Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Nfuka, or among you, somebody, their mic is on. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Ishan, for the contribution. Yeah, piloting, experiment first is the best way to test the strategies. Okay, I've read your message, Mr. Moses. You've shared with me the presentation. Yeah, and this is also to say for the presenters, there have been a lot of requests. People are asking for your presentations. So if you won't mind, please share with me your slides. So I have emails of each and everybody who registered. I will share it with them if that's okay. Yeah, so now I'm opening the floor to every attendee to share your insights, your contribution, your suggestion. What do you think about this strategy? What do you think about the evidence week? What do you think about the role of evidence and everything? So anybody who wants to start, you can just raise your hand. I hope I'll be able to see you. Yes, the floor is open to everyone. Yes, loudest. And if you have a question or a contribution, make it very short, maximum 1.5 minutes, because we are totally behind time. Thank you. Laudax, the floor is yours.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Actually, I wrote my questions to the Q&A session, so I just wanted to remind you on that. So I have two questions on the Q&A session, and I have, I think, each for per speaker. There's one for Mr. Ishan, and I have another one for Mr. Dr. Mfuka. And I had the other question, which I think I haven't wrote it, or I wrote it down, was to the last speaker on how what does he think, or what does he think we can leverage the case studies from Zimbabwe, was it Zimbabwe? Botswana, sorry, from Botswana, and that we can leverage to Tanzania, and can bring effects to the adaptation of technology in our rural schools, specifically to the rural schools in Tanzania. Those are my three questions.
Okay, thank you, Laudax. So you're having the question to Mr. Moses on how we can leverage the same. And I did not hear your question to Mr. Ishan. Mr. Moses, you can.
I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it. Okay, let me.
It's
Okay, let me check. Thank you.
Q&A.
Mr. Moses.
Okay, thank you. I didn't get the name of the gentleman who was asking.
Laudax.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Laudax, for the question. Even though to me it sounds like a complex question. I'll try to answer it the way I understood it. How can we leverage the rural schools based on Botswana's problem model? One would answer it this way. Each region in Botswana is completely unique. Let me give an example. The eastern side of Botswana is not a desert. It is a very good area in terms of rainfall, transportation, and in terms of density, is the highly dense. Now, the western part of the country is a desert, complete desert, sparsely populated, very far from everything else. The northeast, which is towards the Zimbabwean side of it, in terms, and it has got a lot of villages close to each other. And it is one area that probably, I think from history, has got a lot of intellectuals. Most of them, they come from there. And that has got its own challenges also. The northwest, the delta side of it, different. So now, the solutions that we crafted were dependent on the regions. The analysis that we did earlier actually gave us an opportunity to say, how do we tackle this one in terms of connectivity? Now, the reason why Botswana had to partner with Namibia to get fiber through Namibia and the side of Zambia was one of that reasons. The reasons why we had to go for satellite for some areas which are in the delta is because of that. So I don't have a clear-cut answer. I have how we've approached it. I don't know if I addressed your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. The next person is going to be Mr. Cosmos. Yes, Mr. Cosmos, you have 1.5 minutes to share your to ask your question or contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the way I see the strategy, the way it is, to very promise. But my issue is like to what extent both of us we are considering inclusivity. Because what I see, most strategies, be it curricula, be it every time, is so nice. But when it comes to people, the different others, people with special needs and disabilities, rarely are being addressed, be it in education, be it in any area, even in the social sector. Now, my question is, this strategy, to what extent is going to address these issues? And when it comes to people with disabilities, in most African ways, maybe all of us, we can agree, people with disabilities are always segregated. For example, while we are going into ICT, people with disabilities, for example, people with visual impairment, they will continue learning using the brain. Now, in that way, how is the strategy trying to leverage to create inclusion through use of available devices so that everyone can benefit? Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for such a profound question, Mr. Cosmas. Dr. Alcado, are you able to share? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Gloria, and the thanks for the question. So I think that's very, very important question you have raised. But we have actually incorporated the taking consideration of people with special needs, with the disabilities, etc. So this is actually incorporated in every pillar and support pillar. So we also have the guiding principles. If you saw my presentation, one of the guiding principles we have, if I can show you maybe quickly, is the equity and inclusive. So this shows how we have actually considered also people with disabilities. So taking on the strategies as well. So we have made sure that every strategy in the National Digital Education Strategy document have inclusivity, take consideration of equity, and take consideration of inclusive environments to people with special needs. So what I can say is we have actually considered that, and that's the core aspect in the digital education strategy document. So maybe if I can share the document and show you on the guiding principles. So this is one of the guiding principles. If you can see the presentation here. So the first guiding principle of this National Digital Education Strategy is equity and inclusion, meaning that we want this document to be inclusive, and they want everyone to be involved. We want everyone to be on the board while we're making digital education transformation in the country across all levels. So we have the guiding principle, diversity, meaning that we want everyone, again, regarding of backgrounds or race, we want this digital transformation to be diverse. So, and when now you go to every strategy, and every strategy, you see, for example, we have inclusive environment. So promoting and strengthening inclusive environment that enhance the use of ICT in education. So inclusive environments means everyone whether you have disability or not, you have to be included in this kind of environment that supports ICT integration in education and training. So if you go again to other strategies, so we have also this kind of inclusiveness across all levels of education. So what I can say here is we have actually taken consideration of the inclusiveness in this national digital education strategy. Thank you very much.
Maybe just to add on, moderator.
Yes, please, Dr. Mfuka, go ahead.
Once again, we thank you very much, Dr. Cosmas. Dr. Cosmas is like a promoter of this area of inclusiveness and all that. So we understand your contribution and the question. And maybe to add on, Dr. Arcado, is that even in the sustainability aspects that I presented, there is these four areas or categories of sustainability. Now, one of it I mentioned to be social sustainability, in which also those aspects of inclusivity has been considered on top of those core and the support pillars. In the chat, we appreciate someone who contributed indicating AI like Looktel that offers assistance to blind people and so on. So those are things that we are taking up that we can include them as we move on with the strategy, but also the associated guidelines that are going to be developed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mfuka, for such a contribution. I can see Laudex has asked another question to say, Dr. Mfuka, how can Tanzania develop robust metrics and evaluation frameworks to assess the success and effectiveness of its digital education strategy over time? If you can have like 1 to 1.5 minutes to answer that.
Yeah, sure. That's a very good question. And it is because of that within the strategy that they've been presented, we have the mini-MEL, which is the monitoring, evaluation, and learning. That specific framework will take care of that those robust metrics that the participant is asking. So in that case, and basically that MEL will take will ensure that all the metrics will involve all stakeholders that are supposed to do one thing or the other in ensuring the success of this strategy. Dr. Arcado indicated the issue of, apart from these strategies, there is associated implementation plan within the strategy that indicates who is supposed to do what. The ministry, these institutions at the basic TVET and the learning institutions, as well as other institutions like, for example, the regulators and the other institutions that are dealing with, that are providing ICT infrastructure and financial assistance and so on. So in this case, the metrics have been is already set within as KPIs within the implementation plan, which is indicating, I mean, how we are going to measure all these different contribution to different strategies within our strategy. So we have the robust indeed metrics, the ICT related metrics per se, technology related metrics, but most important, educational or learning outcome related metrics. So that is a very important question, and we will continue with this question. We'll continue also looking at it to ensure that we strengthen to have a robust metrics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nfuka. I can see
Yes.
Mr.
Yes,
Moses,
maybe
your
to
hand.
yes, maybe to add on that, Gloria, what Dr. Mfuka said. So on the implementation plan, we actually have different metrics, and that is our evaluation framework. So the implementation plan have strategies, and where on every strategy we have defined targets, and we have defined, of course, key performance indicators, our KPIs. So along with this, every strategy will have defined targets after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years, or after 5 years. And then this will be measured using these defined metrics or KPIs. For example, we have the digital connectivity or schools connectivity, where we make sure that all schools will have internet connectivity by 2030. But what are the metrics that will measure this internet connectivity? It's the number of schools that will be having internet connectivity after every year. So after 2030, we'll come sit down and see how much the implementation framework, how much the strategy have been implemented. That's one. For example, if we say how many schools we want to have power, but after 2, 1, or 3 years, then we have defined specific metrics, including, for example, how many number of schools or teacher colleges or TVETs have reliable power from the national grid. So that's the what we have in terms of robust metrics and evaluation framework. So we have the implementation plan in place already. And again, on top of that, so we have defined actually the responsible board, the responsible person in every target, in every KPI, in every strategy across the core and supporting pillars. So every ministry, whoever is responsible to make sure that the strategy is successfully implemented, has been also allocated. He's been allocated the strategy in the strategies or in the targets that are needed to be accomplished in the National Digital Education Strategy. So the evaluation framework is in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alcado, for such an addition. Mr. Moses, your hand is up. Is this the old end or is the new end? Is it a new hand or is the old one? Mr. Cosmas as well, your hand is up. Is it the old one or is the new one?
It's a new one.
It's a new one. Yes, please. You have 1 minute.
Yes, 1 minute is enough. For me, actually, I'm a Tanzanian. And what I know is that everyone will do best in the area she is well experienced. In the area of inclusion, nothing can be done without having an adapted curriculum. At the Open University of Tanzania, I am the one established ICT for the blind. And we had first to develop an adapted curriculum. ICT for the deaf. First, we have to develop adapted curriculum. And in all the strategy, the way I see, when you can see even the examples they are talking, zero is about diversity. They're talking about electricity, whatever electricity is available. There are some places there's no electricity, people are using solar power. But the question is, how do we make a blind person learn ICT? In my initiative, of course, sometimes I tend to control myself. I've made a blind person now is an accountant in the Ministry of Health. But that one doesn't happen overnight. We have to have an adapted curriculum. And maybe, Alcado, you are at the ministry. Maybe you can show me an example of having an adapted curriculum. Currently, people with disabilities, some of them are dying because of frustration of the education system. Now the question is, how do we ensure we have adapted curriculum so that people with special needs and disabilities can access and learn. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Cosmas. They are here, they are listening and noting down. So that is so profound, and well done for, you know, for the impact you have made to the person with difficulties in seeing in sight. Yes, please.
Okay. I'm very happy that Dr. Cosmas spoke before I spoke. This one is a new one. One colleague earlier talked about inclusivity and diversity, specifically looking at disabled people, individuals. This is a hot topic even in the country. Now, I would like to start by saying, I'm fortunate to have served or still serving in most of these technical committees that have been part of this digital transformation. One of the things that we recommended to the ministry was to dedicate fund for research. Make sure that these funds are there, are accessible by researchers who want to bring solutions, not just research for the purposes of discovering something and shelving it. Fortunately, the ministry this year, they've availed, I think about, is it 500 million pula, something like that, for research. And they want somebody to write a proper proposal to say, what are you going to research on? How is it going to help us? How is it going to take us to the next level? Having said that, I'm now convinced that probably I need to go back to our team and say, let's go back to the ministry to say, part of this the fund should be reserved to research on solutions for the disabled, on how they're going to utilize the technologies that we're bringing in. So I would urge probably the ministry in Tanzania to look at it that way also. You can seek funds from government or go to partners to say, you want to come up with a solution. Can you help us with funds to do this research? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moses. Yeah, research. You're taking us back to what Mr. Promise was sharing on the role of evidence. Thank you so much. Well, we are behind time for about 30 to 35 minutes. And if you allow me, I would like to welcome Mr. Is Dr. Lucian around? Dr. Lucian? No, you're not around? Okay. I would like to welcome Dr. Alcado to just give a closing remark. But before he starts, I would like to thank each and everybody who has joined today. I know others have already left, but it was such a profound meeting, a very significant one. The contributions that have been brought up today, they are not only ending in this closed Microsoft Teams meeting room, but they are basically going to touch 1 million lives of students, teachers, and the whole digital education landscape in Tanzania, not only for now, but for the next 5 years where this strategy is expected to be implemented. And therefore, I would like to thank you very much for your time, for your expertise, taking time to prepare those presentations. It was such a short notice, Dr. Moses, and actually everyone. I've reached out to you a day or 2 days before this meeting, but you are able to participate and to prepare. We really value your contribution. And again, for the Evidence Week, Africa Evidence Network, we really thank you for being part of the celebration of Africa Evidence Week 2024 through this webinar. We are not, the week is not only, and it's not ending today. It's active until Friday, tomorrow, and therefore you're welcome to, participate in other active activities that are happening through our Twitter, through our YouTube page, our LinkedIn page. A lot is happening, and through our website, a lot of blog posts are being shared. Dr. Alcado, I would like you to just give a closing remark on behalf of the Ministry of Education, just like 1 minute, and then we'll call it a day. Thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Alcado, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Before that, we really appreciate, as part of the evidence, we really appreciate a group picture, if you don't mind, so that we practice the evidence, because we are celebrating the evidence aspect. Right?
Yes.
So
that's very important.
If everyone, if you don't mind, if you can put up your videos. Of course, we understand the price if you are not in the environment that it allows, but those who can, then we can do that so that we have the evidence as we celebrate the week of evidence.
Yes, so everybody, please just put your video on. Dr. Mfuka just want to get a snapshot and have the evidence that this really happened.
And we are celebrating the week of evidence.
Yes. Can you see everyone?
Yeah, I can see. I think I can see. We can do a backup. I can take pictures, and you can also take as well, so that you have backup just in case.
My camera is faulty.
Okay, I think there are a few. I think a few could not put their video on, but I think it's fine.
Yeah, it is fine. It is fine. We can move on. Moderator.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Dr. Alcado, half a minute. He has eaten your time.
Yes. Thank you very much, Gloria, for first organizing this. Thanks for TEDI. I think you are doing very, very good job in accelerating the education in the country. So thanks, Nduku, for the evidence you presented to us. Thanks for the case studies from Botswana, Education Digital Transformation Vision 2036. I think it was really good, and there are lessons to learn from Botswana. So thanks everyone for attending. Thanks all the presenters who presented. I think we have something to learn from the presenters. So as from the ministry and from the task force team developed this Tanzania digital education strategy. We thank you all for the comments. We thank for the suggestions that you have given us. So we take them on board and incorporate them in the national digital education strategy. So we thank everyone. I have no more to say other than let us, in a collective effort, try to make changes in our environment. Let us try to make changes, whatever we are in our positions. You are the one who should make changes and not anyone else from outside. So my last word is changes begins from you. Changes begins from us. This is the evidence African Evidence Week. So let us try ourselves to be to provide evidence to others by making changes in the digital education transformation. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're calling it a day. I will share presentations through your emails. And yes, Africa Evidence Week 2024 Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Thank you,
evening, good night, good morning, good noon from wherever you are. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gloria,
Bye-bye.
I'll send you an answer from one of the questions.
And the University of Open University of Botswana, let us link up.
Yes, yes, yes. My contacts are there. Let's link
Yeah,
up and
please.
talk.
I think now
Yeah,
Moses in Kagli, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, the Open University will have ICT for the blind. And you can search me online as Cosmas Simyani, and I'm also peer reviewer of the Global Assist Technology Report. I'm also the winner of the Zero Project, and had a special invitation to Vienna to showcase the evidence. And the questions I asked there in the European group was only one, that where do people with special need disabilities learn ICT? Because in Africa, the difference between developed and developing world is that in developing world, we write a good document, but when it comes to ICT, we assume it is for the sighted, and the people who are visually impaired cannot do by themselves. With my initiative, I managed to make the only awardee of the Commons of Learning in Tanzania, who is a blind person and lost vision at the age of 50. And therefore, Botswana Open University, you have me, you have Dr. Mfuka. Maybe if me, I'm too small, then you have the big boss, Dr. Mfuka can help. But the challenge that I'm facing is the acceptability. You can see I started this initiative way back 2008. To date, I only do in small patch at the Open University of Tanzania. And sometimes I say, one day, because when a principal comes who believes in what we are talking all about here, I think this will end up. And I'm looking forward also to change Africa, but I see the vision of changing Africa through the use of ICT. ICT for the blind, ICT for the deaf. I am Moses. If you need me, I can show you how to do it. And it is too simple.
Yeah.
A blind teach a fellow blind,
So,
and deaf teach a fellow blind, a fellow deaf. And then deaf and the blind communicate and work together. Thank you so much.
thank
Okay.
you.
I have a team that is actually dealing with this e-learning.
Yeah.
I'll touch base with them tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Because we are rejecting people who don't have or who are visually impaired because we don't have the facilities.
No need of facilities. Let me tell you, Moses, they are using the same smartphone. Maybe if you can share me your email, then I can share my presentation and then you can see. And if you can go to any search engine, write my name, you will find a video, you will see. They are using, I don't want, actually my inclusion is different from inclusion in Africa, the way the people are doing. My inclusion, I call it my inclusion because it is my innovation, though not many people accept it. It is that let a blind and a deaf use the same ICT tools that I use. They are using smartphone. In 2022, I did the connected girls with visual impairment to the 6th girls coding camp, and they even got an award. And in 2022, I also received a presidential award in Tanzania for digital inclusion by when I made possible girls who have zero knowledge about ICT and they are blind and they learned ICT and they are using ICT. They are using a normal smartphone and a normal computer that everyone is using. Actually, the problem in Africa, we are always a market for the Europeans. You know why? They will tell you use a braille machine. Since we started using braille machine, Mr. Dr. Moses, my friend from Botswana, where did you find any technician who can repair that particular braille machine? Currently, they are coming up with the advanced tools, of which in Africa we don't have a technician who can do it, who can repair it. For me, my solution is that a blind person let use a computer that I also use. A computer that his mother, his father, his daddy, his friend, his girlfriend, his boyfriend is using, so that we all use the same technology that is available. There is no additional cost in any case.
Okay, I've shared my details in the chat.
In the chat, I don't know whether I have the chat.
We have seen,
the chat is not working.
We have seen the communication.
Yes, but then you I think Moses, you have his email.
Yes, we have taken the email
for Moses.
Yes, he shared your, so no problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Moses and you, thank you very much, Dr. Cosma. Thank you very much. I think we have get to an end. That was, of course, additional
Yes,
time.
Our additional discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Namamba, thank you very much for being there.
Dr. Namamba, you are here. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Namamba has been there. So yeah, that's very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.